Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Steve's enjoying vacation this week, so we get to enjoy some of the best interviews from shows past here on WKOK. On the Steve Jones Show, Sean Carey here. In the Sunbury Motors Studio, Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai, North 4th Street, Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Hey, keep in mind our podcast. You can hit subscribe next time you're on iTunes, Apple Podcast app, Google Play. Search Steve Jones Show. Drop the shows right to your smartphone and tablet. Nice little bump up in podcast numbers here over the past few days. Thanks so much. Also, you can go back in time on our website, stevejoneshow.com. We have at least 3+ months of shows archived. Just go to the podcast archive section at stevejoneshow.com. Our best of week will continue tomorrow. We will have our first interview from back in February with Bucknell football head coach Dave Cicchini. Had a chance to speak with Dave a few days after he got the head coaching position at Bucknell. Of course, his team will open up at Temple to start the 2019 football season, and all the Bucknell games this season will be on Eagle 107 at 107.3 with Doug Birdsong and Kevin Herr. Also, we'll have tomorrow replays with terrific Yankees beat reporter from the Fan New York City, Sweeney Murdy. Also, sports author Jeff Pearlman and Phillies color analyst from the radio network, Kevin Franston. Replay his first appearance from earlier this year. And then Friday's show, no show Thursday because of the Phillies. Friday we'll have lots of Penn State football talk, including former Penn State offensive lineman and current lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Donovan Smith, Mark Brennan from FightOnState.com, and Penn State head football coach James Franklin. Play-by-play call of the day last night. Baseball, Tampa Bay and the Yankees.
Kiermaier, Herrera ready run, and the 3-2 pitch. Fly ball towards right field. Going back as Judge to the warning track at the wall. It's gone! A 3-run homer by Travis d'Arnaud, his third of the night, and the Rays have taken a 5-4 lead.
Travis d'Arnaud, not one, not two. Better make it 3. WDAE last night, play-by-play call of the day, as Tampa Bay defeated the Yankees by a score of 5-4. Well, earlier this year, it was the New England Patriots winning another Super Bowl, and great friend of the show, and actually before he got the radio gig for the New England Patriots, we saw him quite a bit on CBS Sports Network on football, college football, and as well as college basketball. Also did a lot of Navy play-by-play over the years. Steve's conversation here after the Super Bowl with Bob Socci.
Hey, Steve, it's great to be with you once again.
Yeah, because that always means it's good news about something.
Either we're getting ready to go to Pittsburgh or we're talking after the Super Bowl. So, I'll take, I love going to Heinz Field and I love visiting Pennsylvania, but I definitely love this, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is incredible. I want to ask you, I want to start maybe in a little different direction than probably some other people have. Obviously, Belichick and Brady are the two bellwethers. Everybody knows it. It doesn't take a genius to see that. But there's been somebody else that's been a constant for almost all of it. What has Dante Scarnecchia meant to what the Patriots are doing?
Oh, my goodness. Where do I start? I mean, Dante Scarnecchia is, I'd say he's an unsung hero in that offensive line. Typically, as good offensive lines are with good football teams, are undervalued, underappreciated outside of the locker room, outside of the organization. But Dante has gotten a lot of just attention this postseason, just like the five who protected Brady and blocked for the running backs. And I'll throw in a couple of guys as well that don't get attention often either, because one doesn't catch the ball despite being a tight end. That's Dwayne Allen, and the other, is part of a dying breed in football, and that's James Devlin, the fullback.
Yeah.
But those two guys, along with the five guys up front, are tremendous. And Dante Scarnecchia, we're tremendous this postseason. Yeah, they did not allow Tom Brady to get touched basically in the first two playoff games, despite facing Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, and then Justin Houston, Dee Ford, and Chris Jones. And they did a great job against Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, the rushers as well, Fowler among them for the Rams, overall in Super Bowl 53. But it all starts with Dante Scarnecchia. Steve, you look at the offensive line. Trent Brown, a late-round pick who was a draft day afterthought trade from the San Francisco 49ers, had played left tackle only a couple of times in his NFL career. Big question mark coming in. Would he be motivated? Could he play the position? And Dante Scarnecchia turned him into a good football player this year for this football team. And then on the interior, a couple of mid-round picks, including one who played in a triple option offense at guards, Joe Tooney, and then Shaq Mason, being from Georgia Tech, sandwiched around an undrafted free agent center, David Anderson, who really is the stalwart. He's the captain of that offensive line. And then at right tackle, Marcus Cannon, a fifth-round pick who's been around this league for a while. And Dante Scarnecchia is the guy who 30-plus years is the offensive line coach of the Patriots over the course of 5 different head coaching careers with New England. He's the constant. And he retired for a couple of years for this team, and while he consulted, he nonetheless was missed. And since he's come back, he's been a difference maker.
Something I've talked about on this show many times is that I feel the Patriots, among all professional organizations, seem to understand, quote, the shelf life of their players. You know what? He might only have another one more really good year left, so we're going to move on. We're going to go in a different direction. In reality, as somebody who has to put together charts all the time, when the preseason's over, how different is that roster from the preseason from the year before for you, and does it change a lot during the season for you?
It does, and Bill Belichick reminds us of that every year. When people talk about team building in the roster, as if once you get to opening day, that's it. Belichick will caution you, and will add the caveat that team building is constant. And you realize that with the Patriots, who've been more active, probably from the start of the regular season, or at least since the end of the preseason schedule, through the trade deadline than any other team, at least during my 6 years, and I think it obviously predates that as well. They're constantly going out and looking for guys. They identify players who don't fit in certain systems and then find a way to maximize their value with this team. And that's really, to your first point, value versus cost of a player, as well as production from a player. The Patriots, under Belichick, have had an incredible knack of identifying the value for a player versus what it's going to cost, and as soon as those two figures in their minds aren't aligned with one another, well, then that player is in danger of being let go, whether it's through trade, release, or via free agency and just not being re-signed. And Belichick has a model that better to give up on a player too early than too late. Better to be a year too early than too late. And that's been their MO with some really good football players through the years, including one who was a finalist for the Hall of Fame, Richard Seymour. You look at one who got in the Hall of Fame, Cal Law. When they didn't, they knew that it was time to move on from him for financial reasons, and he got into the Hall of Fame. Primarily thought of as a Patriot, but by the end of his career, as we know, had been in a number of places. So, that's number one. And number two is the fact that they're constantly training the roster, and they're constantly identifying people like Kyle Van Noy. They got him before the trade deadline a few years ago. Now 3 for 3 seasons with the Patriots, 3 Super Bowls, and he's become a real impact player defensively. So many other guys like that this year: John Simon, Albert McClellan, and Ramon Humber. You probably can't think of 3 more obscure pickups during the course of the season, but Simon wound up playing most extensively during the year for him in 3 playoff games, and affected a couple of plays on Sunday, including a tip pass that was nearly picked off by Devin McCourty. You had a guy like McClellan block a couple of punts this year. He was picked up along with Humbert to bolster their special teams, and that's what they did. Special teams was a problem, uncharacteristically so for this team, for a good chunk of the season. But those guys had an impact and really played a role in helping the Patriots win that number 2 seed and become a much better special teams unit by the time they reached Super Bowl 53. And there's so many examples like that through the years.
Yeah. Before you got there, and he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, they had a lockdown corner in Ty Law. Then eventually, then when you got there, Darrelle Revis was there, and he was near the end, but they got exactly what they needed out of him. What did Stephon Gilmore mean to what they wanted to do as a domino for the rest of the defense?
Well, they became a team that took a lot more chances this year defensively, including some instances of zero coverage. And Gilmore, who got off to a shaky quarter of the season last year to start as a Patriot in 2017, blossomed into, I think the elite cornerback the Patriots expected him to be. When they, uncharacteristically, again for them, made a splash in free agency and signed him right out of the gate prior to last year to a $65 million contract. It's funny you mentioned the two guys from Aliquippa. Of course, Law and Revis, one of the football cities, USA, and Gilmore's out of another, Rock Hill, South Carolina, which has bred a number of NFL players. And he's a guy that with the Bills was a good player, but had some injury issues, broke his wrist 1 year, and was on some bad football teams, and played in different schemes, frankly. And with the Patriots, he's been at his best with press coverage. And this team, although they played a lot more zone against the Rams than typically, they really became a team that could put him on somebody and ask him to take that player out of the game, just the way they have done in the past with Revis and when Malcolm Butler was their number one corner a couple of years ago. And you look at the Kansas City game, for example, one of the subtle switches late in that game in the AFC Championship was putting Gilmore on Travis Kelce. He really hadn't practiced against him, or practiced the idea of him playing against Kelce all week long. When they made that in-game adjustment, there were a couple of critical plays late where Gilmore was on Kelce, and you could tell that's where Mahomes wanted to go and couldn't. So that's one part of the impact. And, we saw the job that he did against Brandon Cooks. Cooks wound up with a pretty decent stat line, but, certainly Gilmore played well in that game. And when you look at the season he had, I'd say he was probably the most consistent and best defensive player for the Patriots from the start.
Yeah, because I saw, there was a little bit of cover one. I saw some quarters coverage. But for the most part, what I saw was a 6-1 where you didn't know of the 7 which guys were coming. I saw one-on-one Gilmore on Cooks. You take care of him. And I saw a double on Woods. The other guys weren't enough of a threat to get that kind of attention. Is that if you're going to generalize, is that about what they did?
Yeah, Steve, and that goes back to your point about Revis in 2014. That's what they would do with Revis. They'd say, okay, Darrelle, you're going to go over here and you're going to lock up that player. And then we're going to use Brandon Browner on the other side of the field. We're going to give him some safety help. Ask him to be physical. We're going to give him some safety help. And, when you look fast-forwarding at the Kansas City game, again, for an example, Jonathan Jones is one of the other cornerbacks for them and hadn't played much of late defensively after seeing his snap count diminish. But, boy, he was out there a lot against Tyreek Hill, and they shaded Devin McCourty and gave him help throughout that game. Well, Gilmore was responsible really for the other side of the field for them. And he's a guy that's traveled. He can play right corner, left corner. If he needs to play inside, he can do that. He's been better on the outside. He really improved in terms of his communication skills. I think he's a guy that plays physically and does so with the veteran savvy. The well-timed tug that the officials can't see here and there, putting on what turned out to be a potential touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks. So you look at what Belichick has done, and with Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, I think they were more aggressive this year, and I think the big part of that was the fact that they had full trust in Stephon Gilmore.
You just mentioned a key word, trust. There's a game plan that Josh McDaniels had, and he freely admits, he said, look, he looked around and said, look, this isn't working. And so in the fourth quarter, he changed it up. Give us the importance that Belichick places trust in certain individuals to have the ability to say, okay, it's not working, let's go someplace else.
Yeah, it's also important to note the in-game adjustments in general, because that's one of the things this team does as well as, if not better than anybody else, and especially in a game like the Super Bowl where you're going to have to make in-game adjustments, and often Belichick and McDaniels will talk about that. Sometimes, there are adjustments that are made that, involve plays or schemes or wrinkles they haven't practiced in a while. And you look at some of the things, for example, on Sunday, and I'll be honest, I have not closely gone back to scrutinize the coach's tape or the broadcast copy yet, even, at this point. It's been kind of a whirlwind after traveling on Monday and then great yesterday.
You think?
But, I just think about, like, for example, in that game, seeing some of the highlights and watching it live, they did a great job, for example, on the backs in the passing game. There were times when the defensive end was Fowler, and he stayed in coverage on James White. They used Barron as well. They were physical with the backs for the Patriots in the passing game. Burkhead, certainly Michelle, when they tried to throw to him a couple of times, and that was taken away. And Brady was a bit off, and I think he was having trouble early on trying to diagnose post-snap what the Rams were doing. And I think that in the second half, with the offense not really in a rhythm, Josh McDaniels switched things up a bit, and one of the most productive formations for them throughout the year has been, the 21 personnel with the two backs, one of them being James Devlin, the fullback. Well, in this case, they went with 22, and they went with two tight ends and two backs. And part of that, too, is they knew the Rams were wearing down. That's one thing that, again, about Belichick and his staff. They're great students of history, not just the history of the game, but their own history. And thinking back to Super Bowl 51, similar scenario with the Falcons in that comeback, the Falcons' defense was on the field a lot. And the Patriots knew that the Falcons were wearing down in the second half. And I think with the Rams, and you heard it in some of the mic'd up segments, if you had a chance to watch any of the NFL films work in the last 48 hours or so, you heard Brady talking about it in the huddle on the field late in the game. And so I think McDaniels made that switch, and the Rams tried some different coverages with the personnel they had on the field on consecutive plays, but was Brady to Edelman, Brady to Gronkowski, some big runs as well in the following series by Michelle and Burkhead to help salt it away.
It's interesting you say that, because on Monday's show I said a lot of times you can win games in the first half. I said the Patriots won the fourth quarter in the first half because the Rams defense was on the field so often they were completely gassed when it came to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And I think, sometimes, too, you can lose games in the first half. And I thought the Patriots might have been in danger of doing that. But the defense prevented the Rams from taking advantage of the missed opportunities the Patriots had. Unlike in the Saints game, where New Orleans left a lot of points on the field early, and the Rams were able to come back and turn things around in that game. Patriots defense, to its credit, really didn't give L.A. an opportunity to do so. I thought it was a great approach against Jared Goff. I thought, honestly, that Goff had proved a lot of people wrong late in that Saints game. He certainly, won me over with how he handled the circumstances, the noise at the Superdome, the tough start, made some throws under duress late in that game. But against the Patriots, he was really overmatched. And you could see where Sean McVay was trying to guide him through, even guiding him through the checks with Goff at the line of scrimmage with his head down, halfway through the play clock, instead of himself identifying the defense and setting protections and making checks. They tried to do a lot to get him out of the pocket and do some boots and some play action. And the Patriots shut down the running game, and they were not fooled whatsoever on all that false movement by the Rams with the receivers in motion and the play fakes and whatnot. They stayed home, and it's unusual, too, because often the Patriots play a contained pass rush. They don't really want to get vertical up the field when they rush the quarterback. Right. They did it against the Rams, and that was another subtle adjustment, a subtle difference in Belichick's ability to be flexible and adapt to the circumstances.
One final question, Bob. I'll let you go. Thanks a lot for the time. You've seen a lot of great players at this level now over the last 6 years. You had an opportunity twice to see Patrick Mahomes in person. What are we watching?
Oh, my gosh, Steve. I haven't talked about it with one of the Patriots scouting people the other day. We were talking about that particular game, and he said, no, look, the Chiefs are going to be around for a long time. They're good. And he said, that quarterback. I said, oh my gosh, he's something else. I said, he's transcendent, and that's the first word that came to my mind. And it's an overused word sometimes, but some of the plays he makes and the rolling left, and we get, you get caught up in the left-handed throws and the no-look passes. But it's just the ability, Steve, to get the ball where it needs to be in the end, and it's almost like it's almost like a soccer player is able to bend it, a shot, or a tennis player that's able to put the right spin on a volley that wins a match or something with a game on the line. Mahomes has.
Hey, look, I had Barkley for 3 years, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I had Barkley for 3 years, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's so hard to articulate, but when you watch him, he's a fun player to watch too, and he's got all the intangibles, it seems, as well. He's very likable. He's smart. I think he looks like he's a good leader. They believe in him, certainly. I'll be honest with you, too. I think that, the Patriots, I think in the first half of each game confused him, and he looked rattled at times in the regular season especially, and made some mistakes in the first half of the championship. But, boy, he kept coming back, and there was no let-up in the second half. And, that shows me something as well, just how talented he is. But he's a terrific player. And we've seen a bunch of those young quarterbacks this year. Mitchell Trubisky, just saw Goff most recently. And over the course of the last few years, I've seen other quarterbacks come into the league. We haven't seen Mayfield. We'll get a chance to see him next year. But, I mean, there's no comparison in my mind, in terms of the caliber of those other guys and Patrick Mahomes. It's kind of, he's not Tom Brady, and he doesn't play like Tom Brady. But, I see the difference there when you watch Brady versus a lot of other guys, seeing Mahomes versus some other people.
Bob, another great season for you. I know it ended up great, but obviously we get to all listen to each other. Another fabulous season for you. It ends in the Super Bowl. Congratulations on that. The Patriots are really lucky to have you.
Hey, Steve, I really appreciate that. That means a lot because the respect is mutual. And I hope we can talk again this time next year. But, I realize this is something that may never happen again in my lifetime or anybody else's, frankly, in the NFL or other sports. And I'm just so fortunate to be witness to it and to have a chance to call games. You've been a part of some great football teams there in Happy Valley. And I think you understand how special these times are.
Yes, no question. But you know what? We're still lucky to have you. Appreciate it very much, Bob.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
Bob Socci, the outstanding, and I mean outstanding, play-by-play voice of the New England Patriots. He and Scott Zolak do a great job in those broadcasts. First got to know Bob when he was at Navy, as a matter of fact. And, he's called 3 Super Bowl wins, something else, I haven't taught, really great career. Outstanding announcer, better guy. We'll come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Steve enjoying some maximum relaxation. So while he does that, we go back in time and enjoy some of the best conversations with Steve and our great guests. Best of week. Steve Jones Show, WKOK. And Sean Carey here. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai, North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf. Tomorrow, we'll continue our best of week. And we'll get the debut interview we had in February with new Bucknell head football coach Dave Cicchini, plus Yankees beat writer from the Fan New York City, Sweeney Murdy, Jeff Pearlman on his USFL book, and Phillies color analyst from the radio network here on WKOK, Kevin Franston. And by the way, we'll have Phillies-Dodgers Game 2 tonight from Citizens Bank Park on 1070 AM. Coverage will start at 6:30. Well, it's been an absolute treat hearing this guy in Pittsburgh, the one and only Steve Blass. He is retiring this season after 60 years, 34 of those 60 in the broadcast booth, and all of them with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Michael Schuster is the fourth quarterback, at least was last season, for Penn State. His grandfather is Dick Hoke. Dick Hoke played at Penn State. Dick Hoke then played for the Steelers and was the running back coach for the Steelers for years. He drew one check from one organization from the time he got into pro football to the end, and that was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This will mark the 60th season from the time that Steve Blass went to an organization called the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we welcome him to the show. Steve, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Well, Steve, it's great to join you again. Well, you bring up a great name, Dick Hoke. I got to know Dick, of course, watching him play for the Steelers, and then he and I shared the Dapper Dan Award in 1969. And it was great being around. He's one of the most down-to-earth guys I've ever been around. When you consider what he's gone through and what he's accomplished, he has been a really good person, an ambassador of what all our professional sports should be, with his accomplishments and the way he's handled himself. Great to hear his name brought up.
Yeah, no, I get a chance to talk to him once in a while at a Penn State football practice because his grandson's here now. So, and he is first class all the way. Out of Canaan, Connecticut, Housatonic High School. Yes, I might be one of the few people that can pronounce it correctly.
Right, you're right.
And you get to the Pirates organization. You started out on this journey. Now, this is the 60th season since that happened. When you hear that, what do you think?
Pride. It doesn't happen very much anymore to stay involved with one organization for that many years. And what I think about, too, when I hear 60 years, it brings me back to Housatonic High School, because when I graduated in 1960, my dream, and I was close to realizing it, and I knew I would be, of playing professional baseball. When I was graduating in early June of that year, the Pittsburgh Pirates gave me an opportunity to live that dream, Steve. And my buddies say, well, could have been the Dodgers, the Cardinals, anybody, the Red Sox, but it wasn't. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates. And when somebody gives you a chance to live your dream, you don't forget that. So all that being said, they have my loyalty forever. Loyalty is a big deal for me. And, we all have dreams. And when we're lucky enough to get to live our dream, you don't forget who gave you the chance to walk through that door.
And I can relate to that because of the almost 40 years I've been here at Penn State broadcasting their games. You go through your career, when the door opened to the broadcasting part, you've always been a great interview. You've always handled it yourself well. What did you think about, okay, I'll give the broadcasting part a shot?
Well, it's interesting because as a starting pitcher, you've got the other 6 days of the week to let your mind wander. I'm a big reader, Steve, and I think that vocabulary is very important in broadcasting, especially for a color guy, because you want to get in, make your point very quickly, and get out and not intrude on the game. And if your vocabulary is good, you can choose the right words to convey what you're trying to say very quickly, and then make your point and get out of the way. And as I sat there between starts, and it's very honest, I thought, I would love to give broadcasting a shot toward the end of my career. I was thinking that way. So I would practice sitting there doing play-by-play, and then I realized I can't do that. I really didn't think, just mind playing. I can't do this. But I thought I could make a point, a legitimate point, being a color guy. To be quite honest, play-by-play is too tough for me. Keeping track of the traffic and the promos and the scorecard, what has to be done, and then being emphatically good. That is a gift that the play-by-play guys have. I don't, and I knew that pretty much right away. But I always thought I could. I have the stories. I get the points to make very quickly. I'm a minimalist. That is a good thing, I think, for a color guy, not to ramble on too much because you don't have time. So I thought I could do that. Nellie King and I thought toward the end of his career, hey, maybe we could get a chance to work someday. And Nellie was so good to me, and it never happened. But I realized how hard it is to be play-by-play. I really did. I knew that right off. And so I'm quite happy to have carved this niche out as a color guy, having had all the help that I got from all the best guys I could ever possibly work with. Bob Prince, Lanny Fratteri, Mike Lang, John Sanders. It goes on, and the current group that we work with are terrific.
You bring up great memories for me as well, Steve, because, Nellie King and he was doing Duquesne.
Yeah.
What an awesome guy Nellie King was.
One of the best. You're going to run, no matter what profession he was in, you're not going to find too many people that were as good a person overall than Nellie King. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now here's a tough one over a period of decades. What have you seen in the game that you think is better now than at any point you've seen in your lifetime? What part of the game do you look at and say, I don't know, I don't think they quite have that part right?
Well, I'm an old dinosaur. I don't know that I saw much that was better in my era. There was only 8 teams in each league. There was a World Series. There wasn't as much technology. There wasn't as much analytics. There wasn't as much statistics. And baseball, I'll give you this: it is a game of numbers to a degree. But I think the clutter that we have introduced with all the technology, analytics, and statistics doesn't help the game all that much. I know there's room for some of that because that's the world we live in now, and that's okay. I understand that. But I see some of the charm of baseball is the stories, and they're almost to the point where they're trying to predict what's going to happen next. And one of the great things about baseball is that you don't know, and you're looking at, okay, what's next, without knowing it. I mean, when they get down to the point where they give me a statistical number for their sacrifice fly probability percentage, come on, give me a break. I think we flooded it to a degree because I honestly think the higher percentage of people want to be entertained by the game, and there is a segment that people want to be informed too, and I think we can do that without quite as much analysis. And I can go on and on, Steve. The review going back to New York, I worked fast. I couldn't have imagined myself standing around for even 3 or 4 minutes when I'm really cooking, when I'm pitching well,
right,
for them to go to New York. So, I mean, I have a list of 20 things I'm not crazy about right now, and I don't want to go on chapter verse because that'll sound too negative. But the game is good enough. The game is good enough to withstand all this. The economics around it, the steroids, the this, the that, but the game has had a lot thrown at it, and it still survives.
Yeah, I know in doing Penn State football, Penn State basketball, and also I also do the minor league state college Spikes games in the summertime. We get inundated with stats. As long as you're smart about how you use it to fit a situation, correct, that's perfectly fine. All the other stuff is just noise. And I think you came down to me what I think is the perfect way to phrase it. People have to remember this is, as much of it as a game, it's entertainment.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's, if I can project some fun and some entertainment and some comfort, I'm doing my job. And I can't help but compare it with pitching. I thought the less clutter was the better. I think these kids get so much information thrown at them also that I wonder if sometimes intrudes on your gut instinct and feel of how you play and what you do and what you want to do next. But I couldn't agree with him more. It's entertainment. We watch and listen to sports to get away from some of the other stuff in our life.
Yes,
we don't need to overload. I don't think. And you want to have time to catch your breath. If you don't give it a chance to breathe, you're talking all the time. People, you want them to be able to sit back and put their feet and catch their breath a little bit every once in a while.
You are so right. All right, now on the realm of entertainment, I will ask you about 1969 and your one professional major league home run. Set it up for us.
It's so long ago, Steve, I don't remember much about it except it was September 5th, 1969 at Wrigley Field. The temperature was 74 degrees, 35% humidity, 26,412 people in the stands, wind blowing out at 4 miles an hour. Ken Holtzman was the pitcher. Other than that, it's so vague. I can't remember, but I do remember this, Steve. I went to first base, and the coach said, take a left, because I had usually veered off to the right and go back into the dugout. So it was a great day. It was a great day.
I had to ask that.
Thank you.
Next time I do ask it, if you could research it a little bit more and come up with more detail, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I'll delve into that. But, there was other aspects of the game that are kind of interesting. First of all, Bill Mazeroski and I were roommates, and it was his birthday, September 5th, 1969. I went 4 for 5, the best day I ever had at the bat, and I pitched a 4-hitter, and Billy Williams got all 4 hits. He went 4 for 4, and if he'd been sick that day, I'd be in Cooperstown.
Oh, my goodness. Steve, it is an absolute pleasure. You are a joy on TV and a treasure on TV as well. Pirate fans love you, and even if you're not a fan of the Pirates, they respect you. So thanks so much. Appreciate the time you gave us, and enjoy this 60th season coming up, because every platitude you receive, you will have earned.
Well, thanks, Steve. I enjoy the visit. I always look forward to talking to you, and it's a pleasure. And I'm sure we'll cross paths or cross airwaves down the road. I'll look forward to it.
Same here, Steve. Thanks so much, my friend.
Take care.
Steve Blass. Really, he is one of those guys who, on a broadcast, is a treasure to an organization. He is a treasure to that organization. He was a treasure on the mound. Let's face it, how many people in this country can say that they threw a complete game in the 7th game of a World Series to win, which he did. He was also a 19-game winner, an all-star, a runner-up to the Cy Young. He did hit that home run, but right now, to the current Pirate fan that may not have remembered his career or were born after his career, he is a treasure. I'll tell you a quick Ken Holtzman story. Want to hear a Ken Holtzman story?
Yeah.
Okay. This is ABC has Monday Night Football. And in 1976, ABC acquires the rights for Major League Baseball to do Monday Night Baseball. Okay. And the first unit they put out there in 1976 for Monday Night Baseball, Bob Prince, Bob Uecker, Warner Wolf. Warner Wolf was to be in what they perceived as the Howard Cosell position. Okay? They get to mid-season of 1976, June of 76, whatever, and the Yankees are going to play the Detroit Tigers. Well, in 1976, the Tigers have a pitcher by the name of Mark the Bird Fidrich. He had wild curly hair sticking out of that Tigers cap. He'd talk to the baseball. He'd pat the mound. He was one of the all-time characters in the game, and he was a rookie. Now, it turns out in that particular year, I believe Fidrich won 19 games. They were going to face the Yankees. Well, the producers and the entire production staff happen to be from New York, so they're sitting down to talk about, this is what we're going to do in the pregame show. And the producer tells everybody, look, we're going to feature Ken Holtzman in the open. And the broadcasters, Wolf, Uecker, Bob Prince, step back and say, whoa, hold on a second here. No, wait a minute. Fidrich, he talks to the ball, he pats the mound, he's pitching great. I mean, he might be the Cy Young Award. No. That's what the producer says. Ken Holtzman pitched for the Oakland A's. He won World Series games. He's the Yankees starting pitcher. That's who we're featuring in the Open. Ken Holtzman. So they feature Ken Holtzman in the Open. And then Fidrich goes out and pitches this absolute gem of a game where he's patting the mound, talking to the ball, striking Yankees out, right? And he was the story of the game. That, baseball, I think, has evolved from it's Ken Holtzman, the World Series guy for the A's, who's now pitching for the Yankees, the New York Yankees, to now at least having a better understanding. And look, listen to the announcers. The announcers actually do have a feel for the people that are playing the game. All right, that was my Ken Holtzman story.
You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. You can hear us anywhere in the world with the Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation app.